Welcome to this episode of the Marketing Guides for Small Businesses podcast. I am the host today, Ken Tucker of Changescape Web, and I'm joined by Paul Barthel, Ian Cantle, and the GenBot, who will be joining us with video answers or quasi-video answers, I'll say, as we go through this. So today we're going to be talking about, what we as marketers or people who are trying to grow their businesses need to think about in terms of marketing for 2023. TikTok, Google, Facebook, customer behavior and expectations, artificial intelligence, privacy changes. I mean, all of these have had a huge impact in 2022, and obviously they're looking like they could have even a larger impact in 2023. So let's get started. Of course, this isn't an all-inclusive list. So if listeners or watchers have any thoughts on any topics or trends that you want us to talk about for 2023, please contact us and let us know, and we'll be happy to do a part two on this topic. So with that, I'm going to get started. I asked Jen a question about the importance of thought leadership in terms of marketing, and whatnot in 2023. And here's what she had to say about that.
Thought leadership will be important in 2023. In our work with B2B companies, thought leadership has been very, very important prior to 2023. The whole decade, even previously. What thought leadership is bringing out the expertise for us, anyways. It's the executives, the subject matter experts in the company, and having them share their expertise, typically in a blog, perhaps in a white paper, in a video, educating the market on solutions to problems that they have. The thing is, thought leaders and producing thought leadership pieces is it's a long road. And I say that in a good way. It's not the type of thing you're going to produce one white paper and you're going to be you or your executives or your company is going to be thought of as a thought leader. If you really are working to attain that type of title or that type of position, it's going to be a long road, meaning that you're going to need to commit to producing a lot of content continuously, and it's got to be very high quality content. So when you asked about EAT, so Google, why is EAT important? So of course, we're talking about software and tech and whatnot, and we have another acronym. So EAT, it's a very important guideline that marketers need to know and focus on, but it makes a lot of sense. So EAT, so EAT, stands for, the E stands for expertise, the A stands for authority, and the T stands for trustworthiness. So as Google is looking at your content on your website, those are the types of things that you're going to need to write for. So if we bring it down to the very, very practical, think about the topic and the content that you're producing for the company. Does it help users? Is it created by an expert? So is the person writing it? And yes, you can get a ghostwriter. So in that case, you interview the expert. Why are they an expert? How are they an expert? Making sure that their credibility is either talked about in the article or linked to somehow. This information has to be posted on an authoritative site. So you want to make sure that your own site is ranking well. And if it's not, if you're on your way up, perhaps a guest post on an authoritative site within your industry. The next thing, it has to be trustworthy. So if folks in the industry come and read that article, is it written by the person and the company? Is it a source of trust whereby the reputation of that person and that company in the industry is of worth being trusted? The next thing is being updated regularly, really working for or heading towards thought leadership. is, like I said, it is a long road. The idea of being a thought leader within the industry is someone who you may have been around for a long time in the industry. You may have seen several changes. You may be able to explain some very, very complex changes in the industry in a simple way. You may be able to see what's happening and connect the dots, as they say, in order to help those in the industry see where it's going and see how to capitalize on the changes that are coming down. And in order to do this, you have to be thinking about your industry and the changes, and then producing content. So video, written, audio, and podcasts. But the content has to be updated regularly. So the neat thing is that virtually every company has at least one subject matter expert that deserves to be interviewed. And this is the person that just knows everything about the industry, the tips, the tricks, the history, what's going on next. And so look for that person within your company if you're looking to see if a thought leadership strategy could work for your company. Every company has one, so find that person in your organization. Create, I would say, start with a 6-month content plan, and go pick that person's brain, because they could be a real best kept secret that you now have to share with the world within your company. So that is thought leadership, a little bit in a nutshell. And it's going to be important in 2023. I believe it's always very, very important. And now more than ever, it's never been more accessible to get out there.
All right. So I know Paul, you and Ian are probably have a lot of thoughts about EAT as well, because it is very important. And Ian, I know you specifically have a question that I wanted to ask you. So we'll kind of circle back to that here in just a second. Paul, and if EAT makes sense, work it into your answer here on this question. But I wanted to ask you specifically about artificial intelligence and automation. How important are these going to become, and why should a small business take advantage of these? And any examples that you could give would be awesome.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, practically everything Google does is artificial intelligence. And to some degree, even the tools that you use to build any kind of automation probably has artificial intelligence built into it. So you're already using it. You may not realize it, but it's there and you're using it. And it's just going to continue to become more and more important because things are getting more complex. We talked in the past about the whole omni-channel marketing thing, and you can't do everything manually anymore. I mean, this isn't 1980, and you have all these different channels. So automation helps you not have to deal with these redundant kind of things or things that can be forgotten. We had a client that every year, once a year, he wants to send out a text message to existing customers saying, hey, we have some early offers, book your appointment, whatever it is. So we set up an automation that every year that just goes out on the 5th of January, and he doesn't have to worry about it. It won't be forgotten. We've talked about how important speed of response is. And if someone calls you and you're a small business and you don't get back to them for 2 days, they've probably moved on to your competitor. So you can automate a response to them. You can have a missed call text back, or, just saying, hey, we're sorry we missed your call. Someone will be in touch, or go to our website. Self-booking calendars are extremely important. More and more people, and we've kind of talked about this in the past, that a lot of people, they just want to go book an appointment. And a booking calendar lets them do that. And again, it's something the customer goes to your website or wherever they book their appointment. They get a confirmation. It's put on your calendar. That time is blocked out. You get a text message notice or an email notice saying, hey, this person booked at this time for this appointment. And you can follow up with them. And it just helps streamline your business. And it's just going to continue to become more important because we've talked in the past that your website, this automation, I know there's a lot of older business owners out there, small business owners they've been in business forever and they're not too keen on this stuff, but it's not about you. It's about your customers. And if you've been in business for a while, your customer base is getting younger and they're going to use this technology, whether you like it or not. And if you don't keep up with it, they're just going to go to your competitor. So it's just going to become more and more important. And it's not an option anymore.
Well, this week too, in particular, the internet has blown up by an AI content generation tool called Chat GPT, where you drop in a piece of starter content and it will write for you, and the internet is blowing up about this. I mean, I can't tell you how many articles I've seen in the last week or two about this, and this is, this may come as a revelation to a lot of people, but this technology has been around for a couple of years where it's pretty darn sophisticated and we use it. That doesn't mean you can set it and forget it, but it can be a time saver. It can also be a time suck. So you have to be careful with it, but it's only going to get better and it's only going to propagate faster and faster and faster. So, so artificial intelligence, whether you like it or not, it's here and everybody needs to adapt. And I hope that we don't all become like Battlestar Galactica, where we're fighting off these these bots that are coming after us all the time.
Well, and there was something that Paul said there that I think is really important for the business owner not to lose sight of, is that it's actually all about the customer. So like all of the trends I see right now related to AI especially, but automation too, because automation has been around in marketing for 15, 20 years, right? It's not new. Yeah. We've always been looking for ways to automate things. And the primary reason that the business chooses to do automation is for efficiency and cost cutting, and consistency, I would add in there as well, because Paul's example was a really good one of something you do on an annual basis, right? You don't want it to fall through the cracks. You don't want to have to hustle, at the end of the year to get that ready for the coming year. But the thing I see a lot of people making mistakes on is that they're using, and artificial intelligence is a really good example of this, where, because it is a form of automation, right? So they're using it as a shortcut to produce content in a lot of ways, not to do anything else, but to produce content that is bad content. Artificial intelligence is garbage in, garbage out, right? Like it's not, we're not talking about super intelligence here in a lot of ways, right? It's very simple. Of course, it's getting better and better. We've seen that even in the last year. We've seen content generation by AI getting better. But we've been testing it. And the one thing I would say is that if you were to compare a human written article, researched and written article, and an AI written article, the quality, sure, some businesses can get by with it because their quality is so poor already of what they're delivering.
Right.
But you have to remember who it's for. You don't win brownie points for producing content. And Google's become very clear that they're even trying to crack the code of, hey, does AI content have a lower value than human produced content, right? So all of these things are in play. So don't lose sight that it's all about the end user. That's who you're producing this for. So if you don't produce quality content, it's, regardless of how it's done, it's not going to produce results for you.
Yeah. But it's absolutely a trend to pay attention to.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and Ian, something you said is that it depends on who it's for, and maybe the quality of what they're producing is so low already it doesn't matter. And that's something that kind of fits into this. Google has something called YMYL, your money or your life, that goes to content quality, and that varies by industry. I think me and Ken were just talking about this the other day, that if you're in the financial field or the legal field, that weight they put on the quality of your content and trust and authority, and this goes in what Jen was talking about expert authority trust, that's going to weigh much more heavily than if you're a landscaper, because you're probably not going to screw up somebody's life if you're a landscaper. But if you're in the legal field or in the financial field, you can destroy someone's life if you're given bad advice. And they do weight that differently depending on the industry you're in.
And I think that's true, Paul. The one thing I would say though, as a business, the quality. So I'm going to use an example because I see it all the time. The quality of the words you use, meaning if you don't have a proofreader when you publish your web content, when you publish social media is a little different because there is a sliding scale of, hey, we all have big thumbs when we're typing stuff. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But for web content, for email content, so as an example, if a painter, if you're looking for a painter, somebody refers you to them, you go to their website, you check it out, and you see all sorts of typos or really poor photographs or poorly written content, you're going to be like, I know they're not a writer by trade, but this is their business. And if they can't pay attention to quality for their website that, essentially you're putting a big push on to create the content, and you don't have the time to either hire a proofreader or proofread it yourself, are they going to do a good quality job in my house or in my workplace? I don't know. I think it raises a question that you never want raised.
Yeah, right. You can't just pump out crap. I agree with that.
Right.
Yeah.
So Ian, kind of a segue into all of this is, I know you've said this numerous times, throughout the last couple of years, SEO is not dead, and it's not going to die anytime soon. How is it changing, and how is it going to become as important as it has been, or maybe even more important? And I'd like for you to kind of talk about, some things related to like Google Map rankings and local SEO and this concept of Google Heat, EAT, I should say, not Heat, EAT, and also the helpful content rollout that just happened. All of these are things that are happening right now, but they're teeing up what's going to be in place for 2023.
Yeah. I'll reiterate it again, Ken. SEO is not dead. Again, it's always this time of year too, where you see all these articles like, is SEO dead? Is SEO worth it? SEO's dead, long live the ads or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
a lot of that's clickbait.
Exactly. Yeah. And the truth is, and this is probably a filter that we as business owners can all put on as glasses to filter out the crap, right? The test to determine if something's worthwhile to do is my target audience there? Are they using that platform? And can I somehow reach them through that platform? That's like, if you're going to dumb down or not, highly simplify it, I would say that's the bottom line question you should be asking. So in relation to search engine optimization, are people searching on Google? And I'll use Google because it's 90% of all the searches. Are people in most target audiences searching on there? Yes. Can I effectively get in front of them on that platform? The answer is yes, if you do the right things, which is SEO, search engine optimization. And it's important to remember, to be effective on a platform like that, you really need to get into the top 3 positions for the keywords or topics that you're trying to rank for, because they get 50% of the clicks. And that shouldn't be ignored. If you're ignoring it now, you're essentially relinquishing a whole bunch of leads to your competition. And that's true from a global, a national, and a local standpoint. Like SEO is that important. It's also important to remember too, because we're talking specifically about SEO, is that organic rankings always outperform ads. Like they just do. People trust them more because they know you're not paying to get in front of them, that you had to earn it. It's earned search engine results positions. And the last thing I want to say about kind of the value, just to support that SEO is not dead, is that the return on investment from a marketing standpoint. So we do ads for clients, we do SEO for clients, we do a whole bunch of things for them. And we're able to split out the, what's the performance of organic versus paid. And organic is at least 10 times the return on investment than paid, always. Like it just is, because when you plant that tree and you continue to water and nourish that tree and give it sunshine of organic rankings and SEO, it's going to create a tree with fruit that's going to pay dividends, not just today, but a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. So, the most important thing is considering if your target audience is there. And I would suggest that any business can benefit from it, even a restaurant. But yes, it's not always the right value exchange or return on investment for them, right? But there's a lot happening. You named a whole bunch of things, Ken. That we have seen tons and tons of Google algorithm changes in the last couple of years that have, some of them were huge. Like they dramatically sent some businesses spiraling out of control from an organic ranking standpoint. Some got huge lift. Some did the pendulum swing and are back where they were from the beginning. And here's the bottom line with, because I'm not going to list all of the things that are going on because it's too many, right? There's tons and tons of things that affect your SEO, your organic ranking. But the key is always to consistently do the right things over time. And so where the businesses that lost big when Google made changes is because they tried to game the system. Yep. And Google is always, it's like, the house always wins, right? They're trying to create the best possible results for searchers. And if you try to game that system, you may win for a short time until Google closes up that hole. And then you may be hugely penalized. So bear that in mind. But I would say, regardless of all the different things going on, because there are a lot of different things happening now, and we know that there's going to be big changes in the coming year, is if you create an SEO strategy, it will bear fruit for you. If you hire a reputable SEO partner, they can help you navigate these waters. So you don't even have to worry about all of the changes going on, right? Just know that there's a lot going on. It's only getting harder to rank well. And the competition has only increased dramatically since COVID, right? A lot of businesses, we saw this in a lot of industries we serve, dentists, electricians, home renovators, whatever it is, man, the businesses that were not ranking well, and you could tell that they put no effort whatsoever into organic results, they woke up during COVID because, first of all, they were shut down and they knew they had to invest. And so we've seen that across a lot of our industries where, we were leaps and bounds above the competition and we've been able to hold a dominant position. But, the fishes below us are starting to swim up a little bit higher. So we're keeping a close eye on them. Yeah. I would also add in there, like, again, know your audience and the platforms they use. So organic doesn't just mean Google, right? It doesn't just mean Google business profiles. There's organic stuff you can do on social platforms. There's other ways of getting organic results, but know your audience, know where they are. And then Jen talked about this, Paul talked about this, build great content, right? If you're building great content, Google recognizes great content. People recognize great content. People consume great content. When people consume great content on your website, it gives the signals to Google that it's valuable content, and they give you higher rankings, right? It's just, it almost feels like it's too common sense to be effective, but that is the basis of ranking well. And of course, there's lots of optimizations that your SEO partner will do with that good content to help it rank well. But you do need to focus on building great content for your audience who wants it and is searching for it. And if you do all the right things, you will win at this SEO thing long term. Like, that's what we've seen. Every year there's big changes. Every year there's, people that are saying SEO is doomed. But if people are searching and you can do the right things that Google's looking for you to do, you'll win at this. Yeah. And Google gives you opportunities to rank well. It's just, you have to stay on top of it. You have to do the right things and consistently do them over time. It's not a one and done. SEO has never been a one and done thing. And even more now with all of the changes going on, it's even less so.
Yeah. So an example of a bad SEO tactic is copy and paste and only swap out like the name of a city and create a bunch of location pages. Right now, if you've done that and you haven't written original, unique content for each and every one of those pages, Google is whacking businesses major way with this helpful content rollout. So again, like you said, Ian, you need to hire a partner, really, I think, to help you with SEO, because if there's any place that it's changing faster than any place else, it's in the world of SEO. And what's tried and true for the last decade is still, most of those principles, if not all those principles, still apply. Are there tweaks and modifications? Sure. But it's, we've known the evergreen strategy for SEO for quite a long time. So
yeah. I mean, it's interesting because if a business stopped to think about almost any marketing strategy, right? And SEO is a good example because of its complexity. But if they stopped to think about it and said to themselves, I'm a dentist, who on my team can do my SEO? That the truth is, there's nobody on your team that's an expert at SEO because they're doing other things. You hired them for other things. Do they know a little tiny bit? Maybe. There might be people that had a different job or studied as a student, or, and the same is true in almost any industry or business. Hire, I don't want a dentist who's only doing it, on the side to their real estate business to work on my teeth. So, I know it's different, but it's a similar concept.
Right. Yeah. And just one last thing, I think if there's the best application of AI right now that I see is actually in helping us identify and grade and assess issues and opportunities, and that's really where AI, I think, is helping a lot of marketers out right now. It's not replacing them. It's giving us better tools to go fight the the SEO wars or whatever the advertising wars, whatever we're looking at doing. So
yeah. Well, in your example, one last thing, Ken, your example about the location pages is an ideal opportunity for marketers, I would say, not just the business, because again, you should hire someone that knows what they're doing, but for the marketers to be able to very quickly and efficiently take those location pages, rewrite them. Again, it can't pick things out of thin air, but it will try to guide you in, optimizations that make sense for that page. But then again, always proofread, because,
and always write for a human.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so with all of this, it kind of leads us to this concept of, you've got to be able to adapt and change as even more quickly and more importantly than ever. So I asked Jen, given where we're at and the pace of change that we are seeing, in the software development world that I came out of, there's a concept called agile software development. We've had this concept applied in marketing, for an agile marketing strategy, and having the ability to quickly pivot. So I asked her how important she thought that was going to be in 2023, and here's what she had to say.
So you asked about agile marketing strategy. So for those who are not aware of this, agile it came from the software industry, and let me just back up and explain it a little more. So at one point in time, software used to be made or coded from start to finish. So you'd have your requirements, you'd go through and you'd code everything, and then at the end you'd deliver something. In the time between the requirements and the work being done and the end product being delivered, sometimes it was a very long time, and sometimes the needs and the industry had changed during the time the work had been worked on. So you get to the end of your project and you have some software or some technical product that it's either outdated or it's not going to serve the purpose that is needed anymore. So how do you come up with the ability to stay relevant while still having to work through this volume of work? So Agile was created as a methodology whereby work would be broken up into smaller bits, and there would be what's called the sprint. So typically a 2-week sprint, so a 2-week intensive period of work in order to get, say, one requirement created and done. So there's a massive amount of work to get one thing done, and then you go and it's time to get the second thing done and the third thing done and the fourth thing done. What that allows you to do is every 2 weeks, metaphorically speaking, you're popping your head up to see, like, is where the path we're going, is it still relevant to the market? Is it still relevant to the customer? Are we still solving the important need here? So it's a way to make sure that you're working quickly, but you're also working to build something that is relevant. So if you turn that around into marketing, it would be the same way as if we have a strategy that gets delivered January 1st, and that strategy gets approved. And then in order to get the whole thing implemented, it takes us all the way to June. We're like heads down, creating content, creating websites, creating, maybe we're doing a rebranding exercise that may take longer than 6 months. We're getting everything done. And then once everything's done, we're going to launch, we're ready to market our company. That's the same thing, because you can see in that scenario, between the time the marketing strategy is approved and all of the content and all of the elements that were in that strategy are created and ready to go to market, the market could have shifted. New competition could have come in. Things that were very important to the customer in January might not be as important in June. And so you can feel and you can see how you can always get behind. So if you're trying to bring the agile methodology into marketing, it's the kind of thing where you're looking for solid, quick wins, but you're looking to what can we rapidly deploy and get out to market and get to work on something else. So you'll feel like your marketing is always evolving, always moving. But the great thing is you're always putting something out to market and getting feedback on it. So you're putting out that ebook quickly. And when we say quickly and speed to market, we don't mean sloppy. We don't mean terrible work. We don't mean anything that goes out the door half-baked. But it's also a mindset change that you really have to focus in on certain bodies of work, get those done, get those out to the market, and then it's like you're going on rapid fire test all the time. It can take a while to get used to, but it can be very, very satisfying. The team works on certain bits of marketing ideas, brings them to market, puts them out to the market, gets the feedback on how they're working or how they're not working, and then for the next round can either double down on what is working or abandon it all based on what you learned that wasn't great about that initiative and go and do the next thing. So to embrace an agile marketing strategy, it's biting off a lot to change. But one way to start small is just to think, okay, of all the things that we can do this year for our marketing, what could get us the quickest win? What could get us a quick win? And if you start to think like that, you'll be moving in the direction of having all of your marketing sort of like thought of as based on the agile strategy. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff has always fascinated me because I started my career in the world of software development, and before Agile, the concept was waterfall, and it was almost like the Big Bang Theory. It's like you spent massive amounts of time. It could be 6 months, could be years, to develop software, and then you just drop it all at once, and it goes live. Um,
And hope that it wasn't obsolete by then.
Yeah, exactly. And the pace of change in technology wasn't anywhere near what it is today. But in the world of marketing, it's the same thing. I mean, we've got these channels popping up, that like TikTok. A year ago, I don't think any of us would have thought that TikTok would have had the impact that it has today. Um, and who knows what the future lies for it. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a second. But you have to be able to pivot and adapt quickly, based on what's happening in the world, whether it's modifying your message slightly, being sensitive to what's happening in the world, addressing a platform that maybe isn't performing the way it was even a couple of months ago or last month for that matter. And so websites, too many times people want a website. It's the big bang. It's like, I want that website all live all at once, and it's like, no, you really don't. And IBM coined a great phrase a long time ago. You want to fail fast and fail quickly. You need to build in really healthy feedback loops, because that's the way that you improve. And we all need to embrace failure is the greatest opportunity, and the greatest path to success, in my opinion. And if you're waiting to find out that you failed in these big bangs or these big releases, you're probably going to be really disappointed, and you may not be able to catch back up and survive. So,
well, we've probably all gotten those calls, right, Ken, where somebody has invested 5, 10, sometimes even more, like 30 to 40 grand on a website.
yeah.
And now they've discovered that even though the company said it had SEO baked in it, they're like, why isn't my website ranking?
Takes
And
15 seconds to load. It's like,
yeah,
all right, well, first of all, I question if they're an SEO company.
yeah.
But yeah, so, all right, Paul, let's talk about text marketing, because it's really, not that it ever went away, but it's really coming on strong as a critically important channel. Do you think that that's going to continue? And if so, why? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I do think it's going to, and I think it's going to get even more important because, if you think about it, first of all, let's talk about the people. I think there's a statistic: 60 or 61% of people look at a text message within 5 minutes of receiving it, and even older generations are more likely to text. And if you think about it, when you get a phone, it has a text messaging app built in. It's already there. You don't have to set anything up. You have to set your email up on your phone. So it's a more seamless experience. And the younger generations are definitely mobile first. I mean, I know younger people that have an email address and they check it every 6 months whether they need to or not. But if you send them a text, you'll get a response. And that works for companies as well. And something Ian mentioned about, and this kind of goes to the importance of the list. You can, if you have a list, it's important because Ian was talking about the algorithm changes. And when Google was screwing everything, going through these algorithm changes, a lot of Google business profiles got suspended for absolutely no reason. And it took them about 3 weeks to get that straightened out. And if you were depending on Google business profile, or even completely, we say the website is the only thing you own, and that's true, but their algorithms, they screwed up some rankings. They made Google business profiles were suspended for no reason. But if you had a list and you could text people, at least you had a channel, that because You own your list. And yes, most people would rather text a business than engage in these huge email strings. And it's, in a lot of ways, it's a more personal channel, I think, than email. And if you have a channel that people are more likely to respond to, and I think I read something like about 50% or more consumers are interested in being able to text with businesses, and 55%, something like that, want to receive discounts, coupons, offers from businesses. Why wouldn't you do that? And I know we've talked to people that they just don't seem to get it yet. But if you don't get it and your competitor does, you're going to be at a serious disadvantage. And it's going to continue to be even more important, especially with younger generations. And like I said, it's a more seamless experience. If you have a phone, you have text messaging, and you don't have to set it up like you do email.
I think a lot of people think about marketing automation and they naturally think, okay, it's going to send out a bunch of emails and things like that. Text has become critically important. And, Paul, the example that you talked about, that we've just set up for one of our clients, where they're going to get a text message, shortly after the first of the year, just to say, hey, a reminder, have you set your wellness check? Now that we're into 2023, and it's just, or now that we're into the new year, we don't want to make it specific because this is going to run every year, like you talked about. And, it's, people are thinking about, okay, we're in a new year. I've got New Year resolutions that I'm thinking about. It's a way to reactivate people who maybe haven't been in for a while. It's not super intrusive because you're not inundating and overwhelming people. You're not, with text message marketing, you've got to be very respectful. You absolutely don't and can't overdo it, or you're going to drive people away from your list. But
it should definitely not be your first contact with someone. A text message should not be your first contact.
Yeah. But if you do it in a program where you've got smart, intelligent messaging built in a good rhythm, very powerful marketing channel. If you're also using it for periodic reminders or even thank yous, again, very powerful channel. So yeah, I think and actually the statistic, Paul, is it's over 90% of response rates. Email is the next best, and it's maybe 20-25% from a list of people who want to actively receive the information you're sending by email. So there's nothing even close. Social media is not even close to that, nowhere near close to that. So, and as you said, whether it's a change in an algorithm on a social media platform or on a search engine, at the end of the day, you can own and control a list. And that's maybe your most important asset. Your website's obviously important always as well, but it's going to be a little bit fluctuating based on how well you've done SEO. Your list, you can't rely on any free property and bet your marketing on that. And at least I never would. So anyway, Ian, let's move on. I know we've got a ton of other things we want to talk about here. Privacy changes have had a huge impact on online advertising, and you can see, in the financial reports, all of the big advertising platforms are taking a hit, and they're dropping in their annual or quarterly reporting. Are platforms adapting? And what will online ads look like? And will they continue to be able to have effective targeting like they have, for the last decade or so?
Yeah. I love the question, Ken, because again, I always go back to the root if I can, and the root of any platform is somehow to monetize it, right? Google doesn't exist to be super nice and give you the right search results. It's because that's a platform that helps them feed their ad platform and learn from it. And it sets them up. Without organic results, you don't have paid results, right? It just, nobody would use the platform. It was just purely paid. And in the same way, every single, maybe Facebook started out a little more altruistically, because it was such an early platform, but any existing social media platform, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, where it's at now, Pinterest, like, they survive on advertising dollars. So you have to, as a consumer, you have to absolutely understand that, because there, as far as I know anyways, there's no successful altruistic social platform out there that exists only to be a good neighbor and help you connect with people, right? Every platform has advertising on it, because that's how they create a sustainable business model. So the reason I say all that is because the privacy laws have, yes, they've created a pendulum swing for sure with these businesses, because they got hit hard, right? Apple got hit, Google got hit, Facebook got hit. A lot of them got hit really hard, especially in Europe, with big fines. And it was because they were being really careless, if I can say it that way, with people's data. And so it's been a wake-up call for a lot of these businesses, where they've had to say, okay, the Wild West is over. We need to, first of all, adhere to a higher level of responsibility, in order to, not just because they're, again, good citizens, hopefully they are, but because they're a business, and their business relies on being able to exist in a country and exist to get in front of those citizens. And so we've definitely seen a pendulum swing, but interestingly enough, like, it went really far over, where some of the platforms really shut things down for advertisers from a personalization standpoint and a targeting standpoint. But later in the year, we actually saw that it started to come back a little bit, and they started to open up some of those things, because they realized they had gone too far, and it was hugely impacting their revenue, but also because they could, there was other ways, because everything used to be cookie based, right? And that was kind of the big thing with a lot of these privacy issues. So they've been able to find other ways of, whether it's kind of aggregate pooling of people's data, so it's not connected with an individual, but you basically become like a persona that they can then target that type of person, right? So with particular types of ads. So the businesses are getting smarter, so that, yes, we can continue as a business using those advertising platforms, that we can continue to reach the right people with the right message at the right time, right? That's, they're not going to shut off that spigot for their revenue as much as they possibly can, and they're going to try to play within because it's become a very serious side of the business, within the governmental oversight in some of them, or the pushback from the governments, that they're going to try to play within the playing field of what's acceptable, while still offering the most capable way of presenting those ads.
Yeah. And, we're going to come back to ads here in just a second with you, Ian, because I want to get your thoughts on, what's going to be happening in terms of ad prices and things like that. But before we do that, we've talked, we haven't talked enough about TikTok yet. And I love the opportunity to get Jen's input on this, because she really focuses and specializes on B2B marketing. And, a lot of people are like, okay, well, how in the world is TikTok going to be helpful for me? And look, there are a lot of questions about TikTok and whether or not it's even going to be allowed to be in operation in the US,
Right.
in 2023. But one thing that is absolutely crystal clear is that short form video is here, and it's here to stay, and it is maybe the dominant form of content right now on many of these platforms. It's not just TikTok, it's Facebook and Instagram Reels, it's YouTube Shorts, And of course, TikTok is there as well. So I asked Jen to just kind of talk about, what she sees happening with TikTok and especially with short form video.
Yeah, so TikTok and video is on everyone's minds these days. Most of the social platforms, they have the ability to host and or record from for short form video. The trend for short-term video continue into 2023. I see it continuing very, very strongly. It's not only for B2C businesses, it is for every business. To be quite honest, your question around should B2B businesses be using it too? Absolutely, they should. Some things about B2B businesses are two things that come to mind right away that B2B businesses struggle with is one, their product or service is very complex. So many people would say, it doesn't lend to a short form video. Well, actually, maybe that's exactly what it does lend to, because if you have a 10-step process to install something very complex, you have, let's keep with 10 steps. You have a 10-step process for creating your strategy. Each one of those 10 steps can be a short form video. And it's the kind of thing where you can break it, and you could even break it down further into that. But what you want to do is use the video to get in front of people, to use it as a hook, to see if they can come with you and understand what it is that your company does, what you sell. So video is an excellent way to lend itself to that. The other thing that B2B businesses sometimes struggle with, especially in the services, is that it is invisible work. So the end product is some type of service, or it is consulting, or it is advice. And, how do you show that as a product? So you can show like how a discovery meeting is done. You can show how a first meeting is done. You can show what happens at stage 4 as you start to work through everything. You can show the people involved. I know some project management teams end up feeling like sometimes project management is invisible because, you start with the requirements, you end up with something at the end, and it was all that invisible work along the way helped to get the product or their service done. But showing the process of doing that really lends itself to video as well. Video doesn't always have to be people either dancing around or people talking in the screen or showcasing a certain product. You can use animation. You can show yourself writing on the whiteboard or reading through a document and showing what to highlight, or you can show yourself. Some of the financial services ones do this really well. They'll show how to work out certain ratios and whatnot, and it's just like showing out the math like the process via video. So all in all, B2B with its complexity really does lend itself to this type of format. So for me, the advice would be the video is here to stay, and embrace it, and good luck with it.
All right. Yeah, I agree. And one of the great things is, and again, this is an application of AI that can be really valuable. Where AI can take a longer form video and break it out into chunks for you, and it can do a pretty good job of it. Maybe a really good starting point. So again, that type of video, I love, that Jen was able to come up with some good examples. Another thing that comes to my mind is like for the project manager, which she was talking about, as you're moving through the different stages or steps or whatnot, and to show all the complexity, you can use time lapse and speed things up, to kind of show here's something here and here's a state, and then zzz, and then boom, you're at the next state. And I think you can show some really cool things that way. And again, we're in a world where retaining employees can be really important. And so if they feel like they have invisible jobs, I think you want to think about how can you make them not invisible, as maybe an alternative. Not everybody's going to want to be on camera for sure. But let's go to the next topic, Paul. Online reviews have been extremely important for a very long time. Can you talk about what impact it's having on customer behavior as we move into 2023.
Yeah, online reviews they're just going to, I think, become even more important because as we moved into this online world with COVID and that's not going to go away. People realize and companies realize that they could do a lot of things online and they can reach a new audience. And if you're looking online for a product or a service, how do you know that you can trust that business? Well, it's online reviews. And the reason they're so important is because only 11% of consumers trust what a business says about itself, which kind of makes sense if you think about it. But 68% of consumers believe what other customers say. They believe the reviews. And this is something else that, going back to automation, you can automate this review process, reaching out and asking for reviews. That can be automated. You don't have to have someone sitting in the office doing that. And the other thing, and this goes back to, we talk about directories and the accuracy of online information. Moz released a study just last month, I believe it was in November, that 52% of respondents say their negative reviews are from incorrect online information about that business. Let's see. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Yeah. They didn't resolve their complaint in person, or incorrect information, outdated address, phone number. This happened to you and me kind of a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, where we were going to go to a restaurant for lunch, and their online profile, was GMB at the time, said that they were open, and we got there and they were closed. And that irritates people.
Well, especially, I think if the case of what I remember, we drove 15, 20 minutes out of our way just to go to this place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that will cause people to leave a bad review. And I think if there's a psychological aspect there, that if you can't keep your online information updated, can I trust the quality of your work? And the other thing that they found is 91% of consumers, after reading, if they're looking at reviews, they're probably in the try-buy stage, or the bottom of that sales funnel. 91% of them will either go to the website, go to the place of business, or contact the business. So you have to have reviews. And like me personally, if I'm looking at 2 different businesses and one has, 5 or 6 5-star reviews, and another one had, 4.5 5-star reviews, and another one has 50 or 60, and all other things are equal, I'm probably going to go to the business with more reviews, because they could have had 5 friends write those reviews for them.
Well, and I think, the review engines are getting smarter about weeding out bad or not legitimate reviews as well.
Yeah. And, the other thing is, the reason you want to automate this process, because it is important, is 38 to 40% of the time when a customer doesn't leave a review is because they forgot or they weren't asked. Being pissed off is a powerful motivator. If you irritate someone, they're going to go leave a negative review. But if they're happy with the quality of your work or product or service, you need to ask for that review, because they're probably going to, now if a friend asks them, say, hey, I need this or that. Oh yeah, I use this company. But their chances are they're not going to, and we see this all the time, they're not going to go leave a review. So you have to ask for that review. And again, that's a part of your business that you want to automate. And most consumers you want to respond to your reviews as well, because most consumers, if they see that the owner responded to a negative review and legitimately tried to resolve the problem or did resolve the problem, they'll give that business a second chance.
Or a first chance if it wasn't their
Right.
experience.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Ian, let's talk about data, because I know you also like data. So using data to make decisions seems like it's become more important than ever. What does that look like in 2023?
Yeah. If you're not using data to make decisions, I would be asking you, what are you using to make honestly, right? Like it's again, maybe today is my, asking the silly questions, but I think that's a really valuable question a business should be asking, because quite frankly, in the marketing world, you do see businesses spending money on things that don't make sense. And the only way, once you start to probe a little bit and you ask questions about why they're doing that, there's often no real reason except it was the latest shiny object, or, the business owner just wanted to do it. Right. But
Or
there's
we've
no,
always done it.
or we've always done it. Yeah, that's a great one. So I agree 100% with, first of all, the premise that data matters and that you should be using data. I came out of the corporate world, and in the corporate world, probably 10 years ago, there started to be this term thrown around called big data. And it was this scary term, like, we're gathering so much data as businesses that it's become paralyzing because there's too much data to sift through now. And so that's a legitimate concern, but that's where, you have to, first of all, understand your KPIs. What are your key performance indicators for your business and for your marketing? And look at those KPIs, those key performance indicators, the metrics that matter most to you. And of course, you can drill down to minutia, right? You can keep going and going and going. Like, I've been on marketing calls with clients where, we start at the high level. They're like, well, how does that happen? And we drill down, and then they're like, well, how did, and eventually it gets a little bit silly. And that's where the big data part comes in. But, first of all, a business has to be tracking data, because the data will give you the scientific support to make informed decisions. And I think that's the key. And I think that's just as valuable this coming year, if not more so, because everything is becoming more complex. Is TikTok the platform for my business to be advertising on, or to be spending time organically producing content for? Let the data decide for you, right? Is my target audience there? Is it going to produce a better ROI than the other things I'm currently investing in or could be investing in? So I think it's really important. The interesting thing too is we kind of started off this conversation or early on about automation, right? And AI. And it's interesting that things like data are what drives the Google algorithm and the automations that Google's really trying to push businesses to accept on advertising. But the truth is, they don't always yield the best results if you relinquish control to Google on your advertising. And the only way you know that is if you can slice and dice the data, compare A/Bs and that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, you want to be tracking the data. It can help you get better results. It can help you optimize every aspect of your marketing. If you measure it, you can improve it. That's a Peter Drucker quote. It can help you maximize your advertising return on investment. It can help you personalize the user's experience, but you have to have the data first, right? In order to do that, it's got to be in some accessible form. And it can provide greater value to your ideal customers, clients, and patients if you have that data and you can share it with them. So I think it's really valuable. The last tiny point about that, if there was one data thing you absolutely should be doing, and I was even going to say, if you have a website, every business has to have a website. Like, it's just, I can't think of a circumstance where you wouldn't benefit from one. But you have to set up, you should have done this a year ago, but you have to set up your Google Analytics 4 property on Google Analytics because for it to start tracking data, because they're going to be phasing out the legacy Google Analytics this coming year. And if you wait until that point, you will have no historical data whatsoever. So that's a really important thing for people gathering data, because you can learn an awful lot about the people that come to your website, what they're consuming, and all of that kind of stuff if you're tracking it through Google Analytics.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. So we've gone over our hour. I have some other questions to ask, but I think we're going to hold off on those and maybe incorporate those into a part 2 of this. So, so I wanted to thank everybody for watching or listening this. Please share this with your friends. If you think that the information that we cover in here is valuable and helpful, we would really appreciate a review on your favorite podcast platform as well. And with that, Ian, what do we do?
We should keep calm and mark it on, people.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.